Talking with the experts.
Steps to getting started and mistakes to avoid when outsourcing with Arijana Ilibasic in episode 305.
The biggest part, and just being really clear on what it is that you want to outsource, and kind of matching what your needs are to the level of the role that you're going to hire. And by that, I mean, if you don't have your content strategy laid out yet, you shouldn't be hiring like an entry-level VA to do content for you, because then what are you actually spending money on? So then you might actually need like the strategy help first before you can hand it off for somebody else to kind of maintain it. So, I mean, that was one thing that, like, when I started freelancing as a VA, I was always I really noticed in the beginning and was kind of confused as to why people were trying to delegate all of the things. Because, I would come across entrepreneurs where it's been just them. They recognize that they need help. They don't really know what they need help with. They just know that they're overwhelmed and there are too many tasks on the list, right? And it's just like...
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
And welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. You can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And I had to get on yesterday about outsourcing, but I think that Arijana has a different take on, why outsourcing is so important and how to get started and all the mistakes to avoid. Now, Arijana Ilibasic is the founder of Scale and Simplify and has been working with online businesses for over 5 years. She's been leading teams, managing launches and building funnels for six-figure course creators. Her educational and work background prior to joining the online space includes a Bachelor of Psychology, a postgraduate degree in Human Resources Management, and 5 years in corporate human resources roles. She currently lives in Serbia with her husband and 2 young children and a puppy, which is really nice. I like little puppies. Welcome, Arijana, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Now, what took you from HR to online, outsourcing?
Yeah. Well, I kind of just, stumbled into it, I think, like everybody. And essentially it was a case where, once I finished my school and I started in my corporate career, it was like something wasn't quite right. And I knew that really ultimately for me to be really happy with how I'm spending my time and living my life, I needed to kind of do my own thing. And so I explored here and there, and eventually I stumbled into the world of virtual assistants. And so really in the beginning, my goal was like, get out of my corporate job, replace my income to some like minimum level. And that was it. It was like, this is the first goal. Something else will come later, but this is like step one. And so I just started freelancing as a virtual assistant. And then that's kind of like evolved over time into me being an online business manager, and then kind of just like taking all those experiences from HR and the psychology, and then seeing how people had been working with me as a virtual assistant, and kind of picking up on the things that I was noticing as far as, mistakes and challenges that they were facing. And so now I really love helping people with figuring out how to outsource.
Yeah, well, so what are some steps to get started in outsourcing?
Yeah, I think the first thing really is getting really clear on what it is that you actually spend your time on, because I want to say 100% of the time, we don't know. Like, we don't have this internal clock that tells us realistically how much time we're spending on like checking emails or customer service emails or like bookkeeping and all of those little things that add up. And especially those things that each time we go to do it, we think, oh, it's just a minute, it's just a minute, it's just a minute of my time. So what I always get people to do is track their time. Like, before working with me, I get them to track their time for at least a week. And there's time trackers like Clockify and Toggle that you can use. And it's like, I get pushback because it's just like this annoying, tedious thing that people don't want to do. But what comes out of it is so, so valuable. So track your time and look at it realistically. Like, how much time are you actually at the end of the week or a month, ideally, spending on some of those things that aren't really like the best use of your time. And when you see that, you can kind of like categorize it, and it's really eye-opening.
Yeah, I agree. There's a really other good time trackers called Desk Time. I think they come from over your way. I don't know if it's in Serbia or Croatia, one of those countries, somewhere around that area. And that's a really good time tracker as well. So yeah, just putting that out there.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one, but yeah, whatever it is. I mean, even like open a spreadsheet and log your time, like just
whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And you're right. You say, oh, it only takes a minute, but by the time you sort of get back to doing something else, you realize there's an hour already gone. And, what have I been doing for this hour? And you've probably just been checking your emails and answering them.
Yeah, and it puts us in that like reactive mode, and then the time gets away from us. And it also, like, those little things, they take you out of, because you have to be in a different frame of mind, right? And so you just like get sucked into that day to day, and you can't kind of like, it's harder to zoom out and look at your business kind of from that higher level then.
Yeah, and you've got to, and most business owners unfortunately spend too much time working in their business rather than on their business, and they get, time just gets away from them, and by the time they need to work on their business and do all their marketing and do whatever, they've run out of time, because it's just, they've been doing all the other menial tasks that could be really outsourced to someone else.
For sure. So yeah, that's the first step. And really with that first step too, because there's like a 3-step framework that I take people through, but kind of before that is like this prep work. And part of that too is the mindset of it. Like, a lot of people struggle with giving up the control, for example, of the things that they're doing. And it's because like, we're so used to being all of the roles in our own businesses in the beginning. And it feels very personal. It's not like when you're in a job, it's easier to delegate then, because it's not like your baby, or however else we call our businesses. So just recognizing those things in yourself, like, what is it that's actually stopping you from outsourcing? Because, people tell themselves they don't have the money, it's going to take too much time to outsource. And those are really not reasons. If I'm being real, you can find a way to do it. It's just, do you want to find a way to do it?
Yeah, I think it's finding the way. And what's the third step?
So that's kind of the pre-work. The first step, really, once you actually dig into it, is eliminating the things that you don't actually need to be doing. So, and just really simplifying and focusing your business first, because often what happens is like, we're doing all of these things that we think we should be doing. They're not actually bringing the results for us. And then we go and we spend money on paying other people to do the things that are not bringing the results for us. And then we're like, oh, I'm spending too much on outsourcing. So we have to make sure that, like, before we get to outsourcing, that our back end is a little bit cleaned up. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like, don't have that hold you up. But, consider, do I really need to be posting on 6 different social media platforms, and then outsourcing that to somebody for like $1,000 a month? Probably not. So just kind of go through the things that you're doing and see if there's something that really isn't actually necessary for your business right now. Like, it's not directly tied to your goals. And then Go on.
Sorry, keep going. I thought you'd finished. Go on.
Yeah, I did. With that step, yes, that's pretty much it for the first step.
Yeah, and the second one?
Yeah. And then from there, you want to streamline and kind of systematize the things that you're doing and get clear on how you're going to actually delegate the thing that you want to delegate. So the easiest example is like for content and social media, because oftentimes that's kind of what people want to outsource among the first things. And that's really like thinking through, okay, what am I going to do? And in an ideal world, what do I want to be doing? So that for content, most likely is going to be like, you're going to produce that one core piece of content, and then you're going to have somebody else do all the other pieces. So for me, one of the main things I do is like tutorial videos for like an agency side of my business where we build funnels. So I do tutorial videos, and then that gets repurposed into a blog post. It gets edited, it gets put onto YouTube, and it gets repurposed as social media posts. And so I only do that first piece because that's the piece that, well, I have to do because it's my face, but also it's the piece that I enjoy doing. And then I think through all of the other pieces that have to be handed off to somebody else. The other way to do this step, once you've identified what you want to outsource, is do the thing and record yourself doing it. And this makes it really easy, and it kind of takes out the overwhelm of like, how do I put together a process and a standard operating procedures document, which just like most people are like, oh, I just don't want to do that. So I use a screen recorder, Loom. It's probably the easiest one. It just like works in your browser. And so if you're posting social media content, you are like creating your graphics for it. Next time you go to do it, instead of just doing it, be mindful that, okay, I'm going to outsource this in a month. Let's start preparing the instructions for that now. And so as you're doing it, just record yourself and talk about what you're doing. And right there, you've got like 99% of your SOP ready to hand off to the new team member when you hire them.
That's a really great tip. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah,
Rather
it
than doing
saves so much time.
screenshots. Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the mistakes to avoid when you're outsourcing?
Not doing that prep work. So essentially that's the biggest part, and just being really clear on what it is that you want to outsource, and kind of matching what your needs are to the level of the role that you're going to hire. And by that, I mean, you know, if you don't have your content strategy laid out yet, you shouldn't be hiring like an entry-level VA to do content for you, because then what are you actually spending money on? So then you might actually need like the strategy help first before you can hand it off for somebody else to kind of maintain it. So, I mean, that was one thing that, like, when I started freelancing as a VA, I was always kind of, I really noticed in the beginning and was kind of confused as to why people were trying to delegate all of the things. Because, you know, I would come across entrepreneurs where it's been just them. They recognize that they need help. They don't really know what they need help with. They just know that they're overwhelmed and there are too many tasks on the list, right? And it's just like, take it all. So they go into like panic, and they just want to find somebody to like relieve the pain and like take all of the tasks. But you get into trouble. Like if that person can't handle all of those different things, then you are going to end up spending more time and money than you would have otherwise.
Yep, great tip.
Yeah, and then I think the other mistake too is just, sorry, my thoughts just like vanished. You know, when you have a thought and it like disappears. It's kind of tied into this one, but be intentional with why you're hiring. Like, make sure you actually do need to hire. And I genuinely think that like everybody can benefit from outsourcing something. Like, start somewhere, start small. But you know, when I started as a VA, I would have people come to me and I would ask them, why are you looking for a virtual assistant? And they would say, oh, my friend told me I needed one. And I'm like, no, that's not a reason. So just, or they would like hire the first person because they were recommended to them or something like that. So just, it's really important to be intentional. Like, who do you actually need in your business, the skills that they need and the work that they're going to be doing, and also just kind of like what kind of a person they are.
Yeah, great. That's a really excellent tip. Absolutely. Now, can you please explain the difference between a virtual assistant or VA and an online business manager or OBM?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a lot of confusion between like different job titles and everything. So in general, a virtual assistant more so does like the executing of the tasks. And then even within like VAs, you have like, it's like an umbrella, right? So underneath or as a subcategory, you have tech VAs, people who specialize in the tech side of things like automations, building funnels, and all of that stuff. You're going to have VAs who specialize in social media management. You're going to have VAs who specialize in like calendar and event management. So, you know, there are generalists as well, but there's also kind of like this mishmash of different specializations as well. But they focus on like the doing. And then an online business manager focuses more on like managing a team. If you have a team, kind of like high level metrics and planning, like analytics and planning, project management and planning, and then all of those other kind of things that need to be done, but you as the CEO of your business shouldn't really be spending your time on, like hiring. So like the front end of the recruitment, you might make a decision about who to hire, but all the stuff beforehand needs to happen there. And yeah, that's kind of those are the main buckets.
Yeah, it's I was an OBM for a while, and you're trying to explain to somebody what it was. Oh, you're just a VA, and I said, well, no, I'm a little bit more than that. It's, you know, a bit more high level than just being a virtual assistant. And I'm not trying to put virtual assistants down at all by that comment, because they are very valuable, a commodity in any business structure. But an online business manager tried to explain that to someone was like, oh my God, you know, it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
They couldn't get their hands around it.
I think of it kind of as like, if you take like a general manager in the real physical world of like a small to medium sized business, it's essentially that, but translated into online.
Yeah, but and that's a really good definition, actually. I hadn't thought of it like that, but yeah, that's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
I guess so, you know, after someone's decided on getting a VA, or they need to have one because, you know, the social media posting is just becoming too much for them, and then they've got other things, or they're just not good at it, or you know, just taking that as an example. And then, so where would they go then to try and find suitable VAs, and how would they go about hiring one?
Yeah, so we just have to make sure that we actually start with a proper job like description and posting, because otherwise it's kind of like, you know, we're always told in marketing, have an ideal client avatar. You want to make sure that you have like an ideal team member avatar too before you start hiring, to make sure that you're going to be like attracting the right people and repelling the right people for your team. So just getting really clear on having that job ad really dialed in as far as like just an overall overview of what the responsibilities are, and ideally what kind of attributes and attitudes you want the person to have. And then from there, it depends on who you're looking for. But I'm going on the assumption that you're looking for like a contractor who's an online, like a VA, for example. There's a few different places that you can go to look. One of my favorites is there's some bigger Facebook groups where there are VA trainers who, you know, pull together a group and they allow you to post to job postings. The one I like, and it's quite large, I think it's called Virtual Savvies, something along those lines. And so, just posting in there and being really clear with your instructions on how to apply, like very specific. Also, Upwork is great as well. Again, as long as you're really clear what you're looking for and you put up a clear job ad as well. And then I really caution against, like, yes, take referrals for sure. Like, ask, if you have an email list, send it out to your email list, because there might be somebody in your community who would love to work with you and they would be a great fit. Ask your friends and colleagues if they have any recommendations, but then take those and put them into the same pool of applicants. Like, really look at it as a pool of applicants rather than just hiring the first person that's referred to you. Because referrals are great. Like, if you have a trusted friend who's worked with someone, it's amazing to have that confidence that they are dedicated and they're going to stick around or whatever it is that is important to you. But just because they're a great fit on your friend's team doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be a great fit on yours. So just actually really making sure that you put everybody through that recruitment process, and do actual interviews. So this is something sometimes people I see they're nervous to treat it like an interview, because we're all contractors and we have you have to book a consult call with me as opposed to me booking an interview with you, sort of thing. And that's fine. Definitely, obviously it's important to respect the boundaries of the contractor, but you can still within that for yourself treat it like an interview, because that is what you're doing and you really should be doing your own due diligence. So, making sure you're asking everybody the same questions so that you can compare and contrast at the end. And then really taking notes. I still do exactly what I did in HR in a corporate setting for recruitment. When I hire, I have notes, I have my questions, and I still follow the exact same process, because we have so many biases. And so by the time we get to the end of talking to 3 to 5 people, we might have liked how the conversation went with one person. We just liked them as a person. You want to be their friend. It doesn't mean that's going to be the best person for your team. So obviously you have to get along with them, but there's a difference between that and actual fit for your team. So when you are really intentional through that whole process, you then get to go back, sit back, and really think about your decision and look at intuition, yes, comes into it, but you also want to look at it sort of rationally on the other side as well, where you're looking at, okay, these were my requirements, this is really what the people told me, showed me throughout the recruitment process, where is the best match.
Yeah, great tips. And yeah, it is a bit like being an HR manager anyway. When you're hiring, you've got to ask the questions, and yes, referrals are all very nice, but you're right. Again, when you say that they might not be a good fit for your organisation or my organisation, or just because they fit someone else's, they could be the best VA in the whole world, but they might not fit. And it's very important that you get on with them, and they get on with you. It's a two-way street, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Arijana, where can people find you if they'd like to know more or would like to work with you?
Instagram would be one of the places. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, but Instagram is at Scale and Simplify. That's where I'm most active. And I also have a cheat sheet that you can find on my website that gives you the 55 tasks that you can outsource. And it's actually, because you asked what the difference is between a VA and an OBM, it's actually broken down by what role or job titles in the online industry do those different tasks. So
I'll have to go and get that.
Some of the confusion. Yeah, it's all categorized, because that's such an oft question I see, I need my podcast edited or whatever. Who am I looking for? What job title am I supposed to even look for?
That's exactly right. It is. It can be a confusing time when you're looking for things to do, or people, or things to outsource, and who do you give them to?
Yeah.
Ariana, what's any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share today?
Just start. I think it's really important to get started with outsourcing as soon as you can, or you feel like maybe you need to, and start small. So, I see people let it go way too far, and then it's even more overwhelming to do. So, the little things like bookkeeping that you 100% hate doing, start with little chunks and then get the ball rolling, because it's also like we have to learn it. We have to learn how to delegate and be in that leadership position. Even if you've been in one in like a corporate setting, it's still different in this sense. So you have to learn, and the best way to do that is to actually start.
Yep. Great advice. Be bold. Be
Yes.
bold.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I hired a virtual assistant when I was a virtual assistant. So
very good.
Yeah.
You go, people, it can be done.
Yes.
Ariana, it's been a pleasure learning about outsourcing, especially from you, because it's been a really enlightening conversation. Thank you very much for sharing all your knowledge.
You're welcome. It was fun.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Talking with the experts.